that you're here. My name is Jessica Leichtweisz, and I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. I'm so excited to bring to you this Facebook Live tonight. It's one of the first regular Facebook Lives that I'm going to be doing. Many of you have accessed my YouTube channel in the past, and you've seen all my videos. I see Laura Collins popping on. She's one of our interns here at Hope Education Services, and we've actually done a few with her, and she's actually saying hi. Hi, Laura. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about ABA from a different perspective, from someone who's way more qualified than even I am to talk about it. So one of the things that parents often ask about is whether or not ABA is just a legal form of child abuse. Now, oftentimes they think about just forcing a behavior, and I'm going to say it right, the elephant in the room. ABA is scientifically proven to work. It is the most effective way to help children with autism learn, but a lot of parents think that, when you're forcing hand in hand over a child, when you're making them sit at a table, repeat tasks over and over, that this is something that children with autism later in life are going to regret having had experience and have resentment towards. So I have an amazing friend of mine that I actually met, it was like probably 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe even longer. I think it was longer. Joe is going to tell us a little bit about that, and he's actually on. I'm actually going to bring him on the call. Joe, I am actually, are you able to accept that request? It says it's adding him. So we'll tell you a little bit of story about Joe and how we met. So Joe was diagnosed with autism. There's Joe right there. And Joe will tell us even more of his story. So he was diagnosed with autism at a young age. His parents were told he would be nonverbal. They said he would never really amount to anything. And the opposite's true. I met Joe at a conference we were both speaking at, and he was sharing his story about how ABA absolutely changed his life forever. And so Joe, thank you so much for coming on here tonight. I brought you on to answer the questions that the parents are asking. Is ABA a good choice for my child? Is this something that's going to help them, harm them later on in life? Are they going to look back and thank me, or are they going to yell at me for having done this? And there was absolutely no one in the world more qualified to answer that question than someone who went through ABA and came out on the other side. So Joe, thank you so much for jumping on with our audience tonight.
Right, you're welcome. Thank you very much. To answer your question about is ABA safe, I can tell you that it saved my family. I was worried, or my parents were absolutely worried sick while I was had autism. Those early years, diagnosed with infantile autism, I couldn't speak, and ABA was virtually unknown, and the only time it was ever mentioned was during negative reports when the professionals at the time were shunning ABA because they thought it was abusive. But a man named Dr. Ivar Lovaas in UCLA perfected ABA treatment for young adults with autism. And my family brought me to a clinic in over at UCLA, and I went through initial testing, and I was performing skills and activities that no one else could get me to do before then, and I suffered from infantile autism and not being able to speak and do fundamental activities for 13 months. So within 8 months of intensive ABA treatment, I was at the same developmental level of a person my age. So it's when Dr. Ivar Lovaas studied ABA, he discovered that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay.
But hopefully that answers your question about.
No, you definitely did, Joe. So, with Joe's talking about Dr. Lovas, and some people in here may not know their name, he's like the father of applied behavior analysis. So, all of ABA comes originally from behavior theory, which is really Skinner's work in psychology, and it was applied to the field of autism first by Dr. Lovas. Now, Joe, you are 32 or 31 years old.
I'm
How
34.
34. Okay. So you're older
Yep.
than me. I thought you were younger than me, but that makes me feel a little better now. But so Joe being 34 years old, as many people know, the autism numbers started to increase significantly, right? Right around 15, 20 years ago. Now, when Joe was diagnosed with autism, the numbers were much smaller of children diagnosed with autism, and treatment was much rarer. Now, ABA was the first time that a treatment became available scientifically for autism. In the past, autism originally in the 60s was blamed on parents. Someone named Dr. Biedermeier blamed it on mothers who didn't love their children, said that they were refrigerator moms. And the official treatment for autism was a parentectomy, which means they would literally take children out of their homes and they would put them into foster care, put them into institutions, and not to help them because they thought that if they were away from their mean, evil mothers, then they would be cured of their autism. And when that didn't work, they went into shock therapy. They were electrocuting and doing electric shock therapy on people and children with autism. They were put into institutions. They were put on heavy medical drugs that would sedate them, that would basically just destroy them, make them into zombies. So at the time, Joe, 34 years ago, ABA was a very, very new field. And as Joe says, it wasn't even, Joe talks about it being perfected, but today there's still a growing and expanding field every day. Joe, well, you were one of the very first people living on the planet with autism to ever receive behavior intervention, which is, it to me makes you so incredible. And I'm so inspired by Joe and his story of how far he's come. And Joe, you can share with us of really how far you came. But when Joe received ABA, he was one of the first people to benefit from it. Now, back then, ABA was a little different, and it's interesting because today it's a little bit more user-friendly, so to speak. It's not as harsh as it was in the past. But even then, Joe, do you remember receiving ABA? What if you have any? I remember when we talked about this, and I think it was a long time ago we met, maybe. And do you remember when it was? It was early 2009, 2010 that we first spoke at that conference and
I
met.
think it was 2011.
2011. You have an amazing
Yeah.
memory, so I'm going to believe you on that. But back then I remember you telling me that you could remember still some of your ABA therapists and what it was like to receive that intervention. Do you still remember that? And are those experiences, the memories, are they positive ones of your therapist and of the treatment, or what is it?
Uh, the end results were overall positive. I mean, the training was so intense and it was so uh, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, you know. So I was working beyond full time, and I got stressed out. I do remember moments of crying uncontrollably, but um, I apparently responded very well.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just during those early phases when they were trying to get me to do eye contact. That was one of the first activities they wanted me to complete.
Yeah.
So, uh,
So looking back at it, Joe, looking back at it and knowing that it was challenging for you, and certainly, when a child is receiving ABA, it's, as you said, it's often intense. Often kids are being asked to do things and to work harder than kids their age are typically asked to work. So, and that's certainly, that goes with the territory. And it's something that can be really challenging. Even as a practitioner, oftentimes I feel bad for the children I'm working with. It's a beautiful day and all the other kids their age are just playing outside and they're sitting at a table and working with flashcards. It's not easy. And I can't even imagine as a parent when you have to watch your child doing that, when all you want for them is to have fun and be like the other kids, to be able to do and enjoy the things the other kids can do. Joe, looking back at it, was it worth it for you? Are you glad your parents made you do that at that time? so you
Oh, yes,
right
absolutely.
today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would not be the person that I am today without that treatment, especially at that age, you know. Had I received it later, the results would have been completely different.
Yeah, so
So,
early intervention is crucial. And, a lot of our families are on this video and they ask, is it too late to start? It's never too late to start, but the earlier the better. So the earlier you get your child in for treatment, the earlier you start to get these services for your child, the better off it's going to be. Um, so Joe, I want to, some people might look at you and they might say, well, did you ever really have autism? And I know that's something that a lot of, and I'm just going to, again, we're talking about everything that's uncomfortable in this show because we want to be raw, we want to be real, we want people to really benefit from it. Sometimes people look at people like yourself who say, well, yeah, I became really successful. Now I can talk. Now I can make eye contact. Now I can work. Now I can, budget my finances. And I want you to, in a second, share all the amazing things you've done and just the fact that you're a speaker, a professional speaker, and you're going around speaking about how ABA has helped you for a long time. I know you did that. So, tell us a little bit about when autism really had control of your life. What was it like for you? What are some of the things that were really challenging for you? And, if someone were to say, hey, did you really have autism because you've come so far? What was it like that was really just taking control of your life?
I had a hard time expressing myself, like verbally expressing myself. Um, I had to get my. I had a hard time getting my the attention of my parents, but the thing is that I didn't need to because I was constantly receiving attention that I didn't know exactly what was going on. So my memories of how autism was like are very vague because I only remember bits and pieces because without language it's much more difficult to process memory.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I could never understand, obviously, having not lived through it. Even teaching it, being on that other side is really different. So, Joe, what are some of the things since you've overcome autism you've been able to do? I know you give back to a lot of families affected by autism, spreading the awareness about ABA, about how it helped you and your family. And just for the parents that are on this call, that are going to be listening to the recording of this call, and that are thinking and wondering whether or not there's hope for their child, right? Whether or not their children are going to be able to grow up into adults and work and be successful and have relationships and experience all the things that every parent wants for their child. What have you accomplished and what advice can you give parents who are wondering what their children are going to be able to do with their lives?
Well, I have accomplished establishing a full-time potential career. Right now, I am working full-time as a front-end assistant at Costco, and I'm receiving good benefits, good pay raises. I'm currently applying for a front-end cashier, so hopefully I'll get that. But um, the success that parents really want to achieve for their kids. Um, they if they have a child with autism, they should just give it a try. I recommend ABA to everyone. It does have a 47% success rate, but it is the only scientifically proven method of autism treatment. You know, and even if they don't, even if their children don't fully recover, they will, live up to their fullest potential, and life will be a lot more enjoyable for them.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on here tonight to just inspire,
You're welcome.
shed some light, answer some questions. I'm so grateful for you, and I really just the day I met you, I knew that you had such so much to give to this world and to come on and give to my community. And it's funny. So those of you, who've been following my videos, Joe and I have been trying to plan this. What Joe, I think I asked you to do this like a year and a half ago for the first time, and just like our schedules could never line up. I was actually in my pajamas and I called or texted Joe and I was like, Joe, let's plan this. Let's get this to work. And I actually like literally, I'm still in my PJs and I put my jacket on and I like literally was like, took my hair out of my top knot and was like, okay, it is, put on some lip gloss. And I'm like, whatever it is, like, yeah, I couldn't get it to work on my phone, my computer, the screen isn't right. So excuse like all of the details around this. Joe and I were so excited that we finally found a time. I'm like, let's just do it now. We're both available, that we can get on and get this done. Because Joe, I'm just, the message you have is so powerful. And I hope you realize like the greatness that's in you, the message you have for families, the hope that you give families and parents when they look at you and they just say, okay, you know what? If Joe could do it, my child can do it. So thank you so much. Anything else, Joe, that you want to add before we close out tonight?
Just never give up. Never give up the the treatment, and every step that you do, every lesson that you do will be all the more benefits to the future of your children.
Awesome.
So thank you
Beautiful.
very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. What a beautiful way to close. If you guys are watching the recording of this, we're going to put this on YouTube. I know I have a huge following on YouTube. If you want to see these Facebook Live videos, come and find me on Facebook. We're going to be doing them more often. You're going to see more of these popping up to the YouTube feed. But I also am going to be having times where you can come and you can actually ask questions to me, and I will answer them live on Facebook. So it's Hope Education Services. Find us on Facebook. Check out my website, hopeeducationservices.com. You can then join my newsletter and get some other really great free content. If you listened live, we're so grateful. Or no matter where you are in the world, if you're listening to this recording, thank you so much for trusting us to give to you, to serve you. I love helping families like you. Make it an amazing evenings. Thanks you again, Joe, and I look forward to hopefully again doing something else soon. Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Joe. Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.